I got to play the final build of Captain Tsubasa 2 World Fighters. The game's coming out next month, it's pretty close, so Bandai Namco decided to have a preview event with some press and creators, and I was lucky enough to get invited to play the game for about 3 hours. I got to see a bit of story mode, character creation, but what I spent most of my time doing was just playing, learning its systems, because the game is quite different from the previous one. Bandai provided us with a save file, so we had some teams unlocked from the get-go. The game has 22 national teams in total, but we had 15 at our disposal here already unlocked. That said, I want to take you through the entire thing today, give you my overall thoughts on the game so far, but in the coming days I'm also going to be uploading some full matches with commentary, in case you prefer seeing it in action rather than hear me talk about it. The videos will be coming out for everyone throughout this week and the next, but if you're a YouTube member on this channel, you can watch them all right now. All you gotta do is hit the join button, and for $0.99, you don't have to wait to watch all of that gameplay. But let's start by talking about the general systems and how much has changed in Tsubasa 2, because in many ways this feels like a brand new game rather than a sequel, down to the very basics of dribbling and tackling. Back in the first Tsubasa, you had 2 ways to dribble and 2 ways to tackle. If they match, the tackle wins. If they don't, the dribble wins. That's not how things work anymore. Sprinting now loses to everything, unless the defender is literally pressing no buttons. Your dribble, on the other hand, beats everything, even if the opponent tackles. But tackles can be charged now, so you can tackle a player from really far away, making the dribble button something you have to use on reaction. But that reaction isn't always easy, since charges can now be cancelled to mix you up. And if you hit the dribble button with no players in front of you, you're just gonna end up with a ton of recovery, at which point it's very easy to take the ball away from you. But there's another way to dribble past the opponent, even if they are far away from you, which is the max dribble. This is a powered up charge that will ignore tackles, but it has a big startup. If you get tackled during that startup animation, the ball will get taken from you. So it's something to test the defender's reactions if they are trying to space you out and charge up their tackles. But on the defending side, you also have max tackle, which works the same way. It will overpower dribbles, but also has that big startup. The best way to counter a max dribble or a max tackle is to actually do your own. If both max moves clash with each other, whoever did it second will win. So it feels like I'm playing Street Fighter and reacting to my opponent's drive impact. With these new systems, tackling and dribbling have become more of a spacing and reaction game, which were things you needed to use before, but it's a lot more prevalent now. It's less about guessing which button the opponent is going to press, and more about keeping the pressure without rushing the tackle or the dribble and baiting your opponent into making mistakes by charging up and canceling those charges. Another big revamp is on shooting and goalkeeping. You can actually score with your first shot on goal this time around. And if you're on the defending side, you're not just hopelessly watching your goalkeeper's stamina get lower and lower, you are actively keeping your goalkeeper alive. But let's break down how it all works. Unlike the first game, if you want to charge a shot, all you have is a generic shot and whatever your character's signature shot is. You cannot charge the bar twice for their super shot anymore. All super moves in this game work differently now. I'll talk about that in a second. After you charge up your shot, you can pick one of 6 directions and the goalkeeper is gonna try to match that direction. If they get it perfectly, they get a perfect save and their stamina barely goes down. Even if it's a 0, a perfect save will prevent a goal from happening. So these are a big deal. If you're close to where the striker shot at, you'll get a normal save, and if you're way off, you'll get a bad save, which depletes your stamina like crazy. And this is how you can get scored on, even if it's the opponent's first shot, depending of course on how powerful that shot is. Shots can get more powerful with higher chain levels, a new system in Tsubasa 2. Skilling past opponents, tackling them, or using super moves, all of these things increase your chain level, which then you spend when you shoot the ball at goal. Your charge speed gets faster with higher chain levels, and so does your shot power. So this encourages you to use the other systems before trying to shoot at goal. We knew most of this already just from watching trailers, but what I started noticing as I played it is that you can actually see where the ball is going after the opponent shoots it. If I slow down this footage right here, you can clearly see that the ball is going towards the top left. And if I play it at full speed, you can see just how quickly you have to react to that. So by the end of my session, I was loving this mechanic. It's testing my reactions, which as a goalkeeper mechanic makes a lot of sense. Shots that come from the middle of the pitch are easier to react to compared to shots right in the goalkeeper's face, and the angle from where the striker shot from can also make things trickier to react to. It's a well thought out system that gives you some control even after the opponent makes it past your defenders. But let's talk about super moves. These feel more important than ever and way easier to pull off than before, as long as you have them built up. Like I previously mentioned, you can't just charge your shot bar twice to get a super shot anymore. Every character must build up their super move gauge before they can use it. Everything you do fills up this gauge, and once it's full, you hit the super move button to unleash whatever your character has equipped. So the bad news is you don't have these at all times. You have to build them up first, but the good news is you don't need to charge up a bar anymore to unleash them. You just hit the button and they are so much harder to stop. There's a bit of a windup. They are not instant unless it's a super tackle. Those might be a problem, but I'll get to it. So if you are a defender pressuring the attacker, they can't just hit the super shot button. You can stop them during the windup animation, and that is so satisfying to do. Plus, it spends their super move meter, so it is devastating for the opponent. But super moves aren't just shots. There are other types as well. I've mentioned tackles, but there's also blocks, passes, dribbles, and volleys. You can see what each team is running at the very start of the match, so you know what to expect. I don't know if these moves can be customized character by character, or if you're just gonna have to pick a team that you like based on these super moves as well. There are 22 teams to choose from though, so I'm sure you can find a configuration you like. Out of all the super moves, super tackles are the only ones I really have a problem with because they feel impossible to avoid. No matter how far away the opponent activates it from, once the super tackle button is hit, that is an unstoppable force coming for the ball. During my 3 hours of playtime, I was only able to dodge them twice, and both times it felt like an accident. Maybe we find some tech when the game comes out, but if super tackles are this guaranteed, a team like Italy is just gonna be broken because you won't be able to shoot at goal, let alone deplete the keeper's stamina and then score. They have so many super tackles. Super dribbles could be a way to counter them, but you must have a super dribble activated before the tackle comes, so it feels very situational. But I like this change in the super move system overall. It specializes each character into a single super move. I saw so many high fire shots from Schneider in the first game that at some point it just stopped feeling like a special shot. In this game, it does feel special when you do it because it's something that you need to work at. You need to fill up that bar, you need to unlock it, so it is much more rewarding when you finally pull it off. On top of all these systems, teams also have miracle actions, which can completely turn the tides of a game. And they're not as random as I thought. As long as you fulfill the conditions required to trigger them, they will happen, but they can only happen once per match. Now, the conditions are different depending on the team you pick. And what happens during the miracle action is also very unique per team. But here's an example I ran into. I'm playing Argentina here, and I'm actually the one that's going to trigger my opponent's miracle action. Because after Saudi Arabia as a team has completed 15 tackles, if I'm caught dribbling in the midfield, it's going to trigger their miracle action, and it's going to result in not only a goal, but also going to refill the super moves for their forwards and defenders. Yeah, it's very broken. But if you see everyone else's miracle actions, they all sound broken, to be honest. And this is a miracle action that actually relies on the opponent to activate it. All you can do as Saudi Arabia is complete the 15 tackles, but if the opponent never tries to dribble after that, you're never gonna activate this miracle action. A big part of this game is gonna be knowing what these conditions are for your opponent and trying not to trigger them. Goalkeepers also have miracle saves. These also have unique conditions and are different for each keeper, but to be honest with you, I didn't dive too deep into how these work. All that I know is that miracle actions are complete game changers. Now, so far, I think it's been pretty obvious that I love the time I spent with this game. I think the changes are, for the most part, really good, but of course, this was just offline matches against the CPU. I'm sure once we play against other people, the game will be different, and we'll have the netcode to talk about as well. That said, even with this short offline experience, I do see some problems already that I would love to see gone before launch. The first problem has to do with the genre. Very often, I found it hard to select the player I wanted to when trying to defend. It's a common problem with football games, but here, it just feels worse somehow. The game just refuses to select the best player to challenge a dribble, often selecting someone who isn't even on screen. So you're just scrambling, mashing that switch player button until the game finally decides to give you the player you wanted. Plus, the game automatically switches my player when my opponent passes the ball, something I really dislike and didn't find the option to disable in the menu. Another thing that really bothered me were some camera issues, particularly when I'm tackling the opponent near the goal. Like, what's the camera doing here? It does this every time. It starts dancing like crazy. Let me see my player. I just want to tackle. I need to react if my opponent is going to try something. I wasn't a fan of the crossing mechanic either. I think it's pretty broken right now because even if there's no one in the box, if you just charge up a shot, someone will always teleport there to receive receive the cross. And this makes it really hard to defend, because the attacker may teleport, but my defenders don't. You can actually challenge these crosses. I don't know how it works exactly yet, but I've been able to intercept a cross before. But I can't do that if my defenders aren't there, and it's not fair that an attacker just teleports every time you charge a cross if the defenders are not going to teleport as well. And finally, super tackles. I've talked about this already, but they also feel guaranteed. And look, super tackles should be powerful. If you activate a super tackle from this distance, I should lose the ball. But if they're coming from across the pitch, there should be something I can do. I can't even pass the ball. The game literally locks you out of that button. And again, maybe there is a way to counter this and we just haven't discovered it yet, but these are some of the problems that I noticed with the limited time I had. That said, let's close this out by talking about story mode and character creation. Though to be completely accurate, I didn't create a character, I merely edited a character that was already there. After all, we had a save file that was provided to us. Though this doesn't feel like it's gonna be like the first Tsubasa, where you're able to create an endless amount of characters and make a full team of customs. This feels like you create the one character to play through the story and that's it, but I couldn't confirm this. In fact, this was more of a little sneak peek at story mode. There are a lot more modes out there and a lot of side quests surrounding story mode that we just weren't allowed to show, and honestly we didn't have enough time to explore. So content wise, this game remains a little bit of a mystery to me, just like how much does it have, how much is it doing. But on the character creation side, the options are still vast. Every character's hairstyle is here, every face, every nose, and you can mix and match all of those, change their colors to create something really unique. No facial hair yet. I know these are children, but as I've said it before, Portuguese kids grow mustaches by the age of 5, and if you shave them, they grow overnight. Must be why they didn't make Portugal playable. I hit the randomize button a few times to see the kinds of crazy combinations I would get, and I was not disappointed. I ended up going with this dude, which looks like a baby version of me when I was 4 years old and didn't have facial hair yet. Now, I would argue that the first game's quality largely comes from its story mode, how replayable it is, how good it is, and this seems to keep that level of quality. I don't know the quantity yet, as I mentioned, but there are also a few things that this is doing worse, and ultimately I think it comes down to loading screens. During story matches, the game is interrupted to show some dialogue or some scripted events to force the result to start a certain way. It's storytelling during the match, it's what Tsubasa does best, but because of how many loading screens there are during these interruptions and how long they were as well, they become really annoying really fast. A problem I don't remember having with the first Tsubasa game. I did play this preview on PC, so experiences may vary, but I am running this on an SSD. I didn't think loading times would be an issue. The difficulty is now something you select instead of the dynamic difficulty of the first game, and the events and cutscenes are still just as dynamic as they were before. I'll give you an example from my match against China. Zhao here is known as the Star Killer, and Japan is about to find out why mid-match. As I dribble past their midfielders with Hyuga, I come face to face with Zhao, who steals Hyuga's shot and scores a guaranteed goal. Now, I wasn't able to win this match. It ended in a 2-2 draw, which it's a cup finals ending in a draw. Okay, but when I retried, it was Tsubasa who was dribbling, and he's the one who got his shot stolen instead. So how Japan finds out about Zhao can depend on which star you're using to dribble past the opposing team. Also, during my first attempt, I was losing at halftime, and you could see the coach trying to motivate the Japanese team, while the Chinese were really happy in their locker room. On my second attempt, I was able to tie the game before halftime, and the cutscenes were completely different. So it still has that dynamic feeling, making sure that what you did on the pitch is actually reflected in the cutscenes, and I love that. In the end, I came away from this story with the same feeling that I did in the first game, which is I want to watch the entirety of Tsubasa. The game does such a good job of showing how cool this show is, and the first game is what made me a fan of the series. The second game seems to keep that trend going. I hope they can just polish up these loading screens because they really break immersion. And that was my preview of Captain Tsubasa 2. I came away from this session looking forward to this game more than I ever had before, but I'm also very aware that it's a game that still needs a lot of work. If you want to see it in action with some uncut gameplay with commentary, make sure to come back to the channel tomorrow or become a YouTube member. All the gameplay videos are out right now in early access if you hit that join button. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye!